Welcome. Thank you for taking the time this morning to be part of this with our panel group. I'm going to run you through a couple of slides because who doesn't love a slide deck? And then we'll get the coaches and team manager up here to talk about the Canada Games. So, oh wait, I'm supposed to use this. Look at that. So the saga began in early 2019 for preparations for the 2020 Canada Summer Games. By September 2019, things were looking pretty good. We had selection criteria in place. We had, for both athletes and coaches, we had some logistic planning already started. We had received the technical package from Swimming Canada. So things were looking great. But then, COVID-19 caused the cancellation of the 2020 Games. Initially, it was a postponement, then it went to a cancellation, and then the eventual announcement of the 2022 Games. What happened next? So these three words have become sort of a rounding sort of chorus in the office, and one is adapt. So we continued to move forward with the selection of the leadership team. That process took time because we were governed by what Canada Games sets out for coaches. Obviously, when you're uncertain about when a Games is going to happen or if it's going to happen, getting coaches to commit is a bit of a challenge. But what I will say from the beginning, the coaches that were involved, either on staff or with their home clubs and their athletes making the team, were in it from the beginning and stayed involved and engaged throughout. We continued to look for ways to engage the eligible swimmers, so we did have a youth ID program that we did virtually. We eventually were able to get into some in-person camps. And this is the don't stop believing moment. We didn't stop believing that there would be a Games and that we were going to try and win. So that was our primary goal. Adjust. Constantly adjusting. Timelines, selection criteria, every conceivable plan. Every plan, from the ordering of t-shirts to ordering of food to budgeting. Everything was adjusted almost on a weekly basis. And once we got closer to the Games, on a daily basis. There were times, and one of our biggest challenges was the interaction with the Canada Games leadership group because we didn't get information in a timely manner. You know, as simple as we had 3 members of the team added with 3 days to go before the July registration deadline. And the registration process involved taking 2 modules around clean sport, completing a video that sort of outlining the Games. So it was not, it was labor intensive for the athletes and for the coaches. And we were constantly having to adapt to those things. And I have to commend my cohort in this, and this was a team endeavor with Karen Wilson, that there were days where we would get on the phone to touch base that turned into a 3 to 4 hour meeting, trying to best understand where we were going to where we were going to put the team during staging. Initially it was going to be at the University of Scarborough residence, but the townhouses, they wanted adults in each townhouse with the swimmers. Well, we all know we can't do that. So then it was, where do we find next? Then it was buses, right? And what we can tell you is that everything at minimum cost 25 to 30% more than we anticipated. So something that we were budgeting conservatively, we thought, $4,000 for transportation. And that was just from residents to the pool, some transportation for those coming in from airports, things like that. Transportation ended up costing almost $8. Right? And again, that's just a bus from Markham Road to T-Pask. Right? So those types of things are the things we had to adapt to. And pivoting, this I think is Dean's favorite word. Lots of pivoting. Like,
no, I have another favorite word, but you can't say it.
That's true. Yes. Yes, there is that favorite word that goes to a sort of sentence of favorite words. This slide or this picture, once the games were canceled, and when the games were canceled, it went dark. There was no information, at all. And then once we started getting it, it was coming like you wouldn't believe. Like, it was constantly. And we were having to make changes to our plans and in training. Our athletes are out of the water, because the majority of these athletes didn't meet the exemption, the high performance exemption criteria. So we were really behind the 8 ball, and I can tell you that BC and Alberta were very quick to tell us all the things that they were doing to prepare for Canada Games. But in the end, it's about the racing and about this team. And this is the mega selfie. I'm not sure who the guy in the bottom corner is. The photographer, okay. This is the group. This is the group that won the Canada Games. So I like this. I kind of picked this picture because if you look at it, you know who they are. You can find your swimmer, you can find the coach, but in the end, what you see is a team. And what you see your para swimmer, you see your Special Olympics swimmer, if you know who they are. But in the end, it's Team Ontario. And what I can tell you is that this, as much as we won, this was not an easy win. This was a very, very competitive meet. Pierre can attest to that from what he saw with his work with PEI. This is the group. As I stated, 35 swimmers. We originally selected 32. But we had, 27 swimmers. We selected 24, and then we had 3 swimmers added to the team, 2 para, 1 Special Olympics swimmer. And those were added 3 days prior to the registration deadline. A good cross-section of representation from all regions, from across the province. And the staff. So as I read this list, I will ask our staff members to come to the dais, and we'll begin the presentation or the moderated part of this. Our head coach, who is also the head coach of Wilfrid Laurier University, the director of operations for CSCA, and the chair of the Women in Coaching panel, Cathy Pardy. Our Paralympic stream lead coach, who is the head coach and director of swimming of Scarborough Swim Club, and I'm going to butcher it, Chris, I apologize. Chris Ellul, is that close?
Pretty close.
Oh, yes. Our Special Olympics lead, and actually this coach was probably one of the ones who was in it at the earliest stages. She was one of the more consistent pieces throughout because we worked with Special Olympics Ontario to determine her selection. She has been a 20-year plus volunteer for Special Olympics. She is the head coach of the North Toronto Penguins, and she's a pretty sweet individual. Sarah McNeil. We had two assistants to the Olympic stream. Our first is the head coach at Barrie Trojan Swim Club, Endi Babi. And our second Olympic stream coach was also a co-statistician throughout the selection process, the graphic designer for some things, I think the organizer of the WhatsApp chat, or at least the comic relief on it, is the head coach from Whitby Swimming, and that's Olivier Renaud. So, as we work our way through this, and I have one more person to announce, but I'm holding off because I know it's driving her crazy. But we will do questions through if there's something that we're talking about and a question jumps to mind. But our final piece of the puzzle, and as I said, my cohort throughout this entire process, there's absolutely no way that this team happens without her work, and this performance happens without her work. The team manager, and I won't even try to give her one title at Swim Ontario. She does a lot of things, but she is our provincial team's manager, Karen Wilson. So I have a little thank you slide, but I'm going to go to that at the end. And I think Lindsay has a little slideshow that she's going to show while we go through this. But I guess what I'll do, and we'll just pass the mic down. There we go. Andy, you first. So I guess our first question, or my first question to the group is, what brought you to the Canada Games team, right? What was your motivating factor to get involved, be a part of the team, that kind of thing? Andy?
Hi everyone, is it working?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Good question. Centuries ago when I was an athlete, I was lucky enough to be part of the Canada Games in Regina, and from the time it was announced, this one, it was something I wanted to be part of. I was in a very different place at the time, working with completely different athletes, and then all the crazy things happened, changes for me, but it's something I wanted to continue to do, something I've been bugged you about.
A little bit, yeah.
So that was basically it. It was, as an athlete, it was a great opportunity for me. I loved it. Some of the friends I still hold closest in the swimming sense were part of that team. Was Endi is my twin, who was here earlier. And, it was a really cool experience representing Team Ontario. Got to race guys like Ryan Cochran at the time. And I knew I wanted to be part of it from the other side of the pool deck, seeing if I could enhance that experience for some other athletes and win again. That's all it's been. Yeah.
Chris?
How close?
Right there.
Why the Canada Games? I was interested, number one, right off the bat, just based on it being a multi-sport games, as well as it being inclusive of Olympic stream, para, and special note. There are a lot of championship meets and I think team selection meets or competitions that are single sport, and this was just a unique experience. And I'm always looking for new ways to grow and develop as a coach, and I felt like I could contribute something. So this was something I was hoping I could be a part of.
I just wanted to say that I sat in the middle because as head coach of Canada Summer Games, I tried to make it fully inclusive and a full team environment amongst all the coaches and mom, of course, Karen, who we refer to as mom. But when it first came up, I really didn't think that I would apply for the position of head coach because it was an applied for position. And a number of people used to say, you should be applying for that position. And I'm going, why? Like, I don't understand why. I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I can. And of course, I'm just in my own head. So I finally decided I would apply because to me, it was the next evolution process within my coaching. And if I don't step outside of my comfort zone and apply for something and put myself on the line, it doesn't give me the opportunity to mentor in my style. So that's why I applied. I went through the interview process. I got it. And then, of course, when you receive it, and the closer you get to it, and I know I said to Stuart at one point, I really feel kind of fake. I don't know if I can do this, because you get all the pressures put on you of, oh my God, I don't want to be the first coach to lose this streak for Team Ontario. And you start to have a panic moment. And he's like, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. And Vicki Keith told me she had the same feeling and moment going into her Canada Summer Games leadership position. And I went, oh, okay, it's normal. So it is the next step into coaching evolution. And I would encourage you all to just put your name forward. The worst thing is, you won't get it this time. The best thing is, you will get it this time.
Yes, thanks. I actually hadn't heard of the Canada Games before I applied. A coach that I had met in 2018 at the Special Olympics Nationals had said, I had a great experience in 2017 at the Canada Summer Games. You should apply for this. So I didn't really know what he was talking about. I kind of nodded and said, sure. But then as the next Canada Games was approaching, he kept texting me and saying, are you applying? Did the application form go out? Are you doing this? And so it did come out. I got it in my inbox and I thought, okay, somebody's telling me I should apply. So I applied. Wasn't sure even. I knew what I was getting into when I applied. But I'm so glad I did. It was like such a great experience for me. Probably once in a lifetime potentially for me and some of the Special Olympics athletes. And I'm really thankful that I was able to participate.
Personally, I come from Quebec, had some multi-sport experience with the Quebec Games, which is some sort of a big deal for the swimming part of it, not for all the sports, but I just really loved that experience over there. I wanted to redo it and bring that kind of experience from what I had before with Team Ontario and hopefully beat my former province. And I had a swimmer in my crew that was more than one swimmer that were targeting the games, and at some point I just decided to be fully involved with it for their selection. And if they are going to try and get selected, why not myself? If I can bring something to the team, I will bring it, and I'm pretty sure I can learn from this experience on a professional point of view, and I did, so very glad I did it.
Well, no, I wasn't forced, actually. So my very first experience with Canada Games was actually in 2017 when my son competed for Team Ontario, and I participated as a parent. And it was just, it was a very wonderful experience for him. Definitely lifelong memories and friendships. And as a parent in the stands, even, it was like no other swimming meet I'd ever been to. It was just, the whole atmosphere was just amazing. I wasn't working for Swim Ontario then, that happened after. And as somebody mentioned, I'm a team manager. And this would have been my first experience at a multi-sport competition. So I sort of advocated to Dean that this was something I needed to do to just learn and grow in my role as Swim Ontario. It was wonderful. I'm glad I did it.
So all of you kind of come, as we do when you're on a staff or you have a staff at a club, you all come sort of from a different angle or a different background. And And I wonder what you thought were some of the things that you hope to bring to the team. You know, what you thought you could, Endi alluded to. His phone. Endi alluded to sort of his experience as an athlete and that excitement that he felt, and he wanted to sort of bring that forward. And I just wondered if there was anything else from any of you that was sort of, you were really kind of, I want to have this be part of this experience for these swimmers. And just anyone just sort of grab the mic. Shoot it down.
Okay, once I got more into the process and I realized what Canada Games was all about, I think one of the things that I was really looking forward to and was moderately stressed out about as well was the really competitive aspect of the games for the Special Olympics athletes. I think this is the highest level of competition I have seen, and any of the athletes that I've worked with have seen. It was the opportunity to work with both able-bodied athletes and Paralympic athletes, but that kind of high performance aspect of the competition I thought was really important for us. Like let's look and see how everybody else does it, and let's see if we can emulate that, or what can I bring to maybe some of the other aspects, like for example para. There are overlaps for sure. I don't know if I realized that before the games, but that was the major thing, is the high performance aspect of it. I think is something that if I learned, I want to bring back, and I hope that I can do that for Special Olympics going forward.
Anyone else?
Sure. Let the women speak. There's one thing within my coaching and leadership style is to create a team, and it's inclusivity of everybody, whether it's a coach or an athlete. Even our team manager, she was on deck with us all the time. But it's great to be able to have an opportunity to bring us all together and utilize each other's strengths to create a full team within what we need to do. Utilizing the coaches with their strengths and what they are going to deal with certain aspects and components throughout the week or even the week leading up to Canada Games. I was very fortunate to have had a staff where we all blended so well together, and we were so connected in a lot of our styles and how we communicated and how we wrote up sets and how we worked within that team environment. Endi was our Mr. Passionate guy, rah, let's go, let's get him. That's incredible passion for doing what he does. And it carries through to not just sit and be stagnant. Chris, amazing step up. He hasn't had full involvement with para until Canada Games, and I couldn't believe it because he came across like he knew exactly what was needed and how to go about it, and he advocated so well for all the swimmers that he was working with, and to make sure that they were included and they had what they needed, as well as everybody being inclusive to them. So beautiful on Chris's job. Sarah, patience galore. At one point I said, oh, she's got the patience of Job. And yet she had leadership within her patience. Incredible to bring that forward with everybody, with Special O, and incorporating them into the team. My partner in crime sometimes, Olivier, he had an uncanny ability to do stats and do them quick. And he was constantly reminding us throughout the course of the meet of, this is where our points is, this is the points we need in order to be ahead, this is where we have to be to not be caught for open water. Oh no, we came up 7 points short, but we need to open water. Every swimmer, if they finish open water and don't just get disqualified and don't leave the water, doesn't matter, they can't catch us, they'll get their points. So he was constantly on what we needed, where we needed to be with the numbers. And then Karen, holy moly, is what I have to say. That woman does not sleep. You know, the athletes were like, she doesn't sleep. The coaches were like, she doesn't sleep. I don't know where. I think she sleeps standing up with her eyes open. Because it was incredible. You know, always taking care of everybody's needs as they needed them. And she put everybody ahead of herself. And I really hope you took great care of yourself after the games, because unbelievable work by Karen. What did I bring in? My way of coaching is to incorporate us all together and let no person fall behind. And that comes in with athletes, and sometimes it's the hard conversations, sometimes it's the coddling conversations, and sometimes it's the rah-rah conversations. So thank you to the team. 2 other people that really need a huge congratulations, well, 3 really. Stuart, amazing leading up to the games. It was almost scary when he was saying goodbye to us, saying, "You're now on your own, guys." I'm like, what do you mean we're on our own? Where are you going to be? Well, he took vacation. Very close by, right? Lindsay, when we added her to our staff WhatsApp, holy moly, it was great. It was like, Lindsay, what about this? What about this? What about this? And she would be the behind the scenes giving us the answers that we needed. It takes a team, and it takes one strong leader at the full helm to bring it all together and to get us through. And Dean, you are that component. Thank you so much.
Follow that.
I'll open with a joke. So, in terms of what I, thought maybe I could bring to the team, I also had 4 athletes. One of them, who was originally on the list, being considered for making the team. I was invested in it early on. Through this early calls, when we still everything online, getting to really learn more in depth about the Canada Games and just the experience itself and having everybody work together. I love those moments. So whether it's in the past having been able to work with regional or provincial camps, getting just, again, we talked a little bit about how you have everybody looking out for themselves when they're with their own teams, but when you have those instances where everybody can come together, those are really special. And so I thought, okay, what can I bring to the team? A big part of that was just, okay, thinking about how I can allow the athletes to do what they do, right? I'm there to listen, I'm there to support them. In terms of, so elevating my game in terms of working with, as the lead para coach, I had to do a lot of homework, a lot of research. So reaching out and speaking with coaches as well as the swimmers and families beforehand, just getting to know them, trying to build that connection, that trust early on. Asking them, or letting them know that I was there to help build some familiarity with them. I wanted them to be able to come in and just do what they say they're going to do. Learn their goals, learn what they want out of the experience, and then how can I best support you. And I think that, right from there, made the job easy. So I thought I could be adaptable. I could go in thinking about me, but thinking about them and putting their needs first was obviously huge. I did want to mention, and you touched a little bit about, we were talking about this beforehand, in terms of offering your name up for suggestion, applying for the role. After having been named to the team as the lead para coach, I learned that there wasn't a whole lot of interest in that role, which I thought was a little sad. I thought, hopefully there would be more interest in it. And then I thought, maybe people are thinking what I'm thinking. Am I well equipped or equipped enough to handle this position? And I think that's what snowballed what I was talking about earlier was just, okay, how do I make sure that they can be successful? So how do I center it on them? How can I be that resource for them and allow them to be successful? And it was a fantastic experience, and now I've walked away with being able to better support or better set up my club program to handle more para-athletes, how we can work them into our system in different groups with different coaches. And I've been able to share that with my staff, and it's been great. So I think just making the experience about them.
Cool. Endi, I'm going to come to you with a question. So, and then Olivier, I'm coming to you, so the mic will have to travel. But Cathy mentioned energy, right? And the Canada Games is a 5-day meet, but it's actually a 2-week endeavor, right? And it's, especially with the group of athletes that you have, those younger athletes, I guess, how do you manage that energy, right? How do you sort of be mindful of where energy levels are through the course of a camp? How do you engage the swimmers to just say to them, you know, this is where you need to be right now. This is how you need to be engaged. How did you manage that?
Good question. It's funny that you mentioned how long the whole thing is, because also before that, a lot of us were at nationals for another 32 days. So it was a long trip, I think, between nationals and staging camp. I spent 14 hours at home, enough time for 2 loads of laundry. And very same story with a lot of the swimmers that were there. Some swimmers even went on to get another meet afterwards. I know with the athletes from my home program, it was the same thing. And a lot of that, I don't want to say took care of itself, but we had such a really great group of athletes. Even going into it, you know, we saw some of these names and we're talking about them, just these really, really great swimmers, really promising young swimmers. And I think really early on in the camp, someone asked me, hey, how are they looking? And I turned around and said, some of the most promising swimmers in the province of Ontario, really the powerhouse of swimming in the country. Of course, they're amazing, they're great, right? So it was more about, you know, they were all on this amazing trajectory, especially when we look back over the last couple of years. This really felt like a celebration. So everybody was just kind of rearing to go, even though it might have been, we went from no meets to all the meets all the time. But it felt like a lot of pent-up energy to go from meet to nationals to Canada Games. And really, I felt at least, there was a sense of almost revenge, take back our sport that we didn't have for so long. So the energy was always really good. The athletes blended really well together. Where I felt I had to spend a lot of my energy was when we actually got to the meet, and there's meets. There's going to be the successes and you know, some of the tough times. So it was more about not necessarily picking up the athletes that were having some difficult swims, but more about getting the whole team to rally around them. Right? Those are some conversations that after the successes we have with some of the athletes of so-and-so's great job, great swim, great evening of racing. Now so-and-so is having a bit of a tough time. Rally around them and pick them up. And the team themselves, the athletes did such a great job of it. And by the end of it, everybody was drained. But we were lucky enough to have those last couple of days to go around and watch the sports, watch other sports, and really be Team Ontario and cheer other sports. So yeah, really, it was more maintaining and allowing the athletes to continue on this great trajectory that they've had. And to your point, you mentioned a lot of these swimmers weren't even swimming in January.
Yeah.
So from not swimming to going into the whole Easterns, trials, nationals, Canada Games, it was just this continuous climb for a lot of them. It was just kind of about letting them do it, picking them up a little bit if they stumble, but they take care of business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let it make its way down to Olivier. So Olivier, one of the things I feel like we chatted a bit about this post games. And I know one of the last conversations I had with the group before you guys all left was just that concern for you as a group of coaches that you guys would be okay throughout the course of the meet, right? Because one of the big components to this weekend is that idea of wellness and managing yourself as individuals. And I just wondered if you talk a bit about how you managed your own energy and your own sort of recovery, if you will, through the course of the games.
Yeah, so kind of in the same boat. Was at Nationals for a week before, and went to kind of the games, 5 days staging, and at the games for 9, 11, lost count. It is a lot. We have 24 different personalities to deal with, and obviously we have successes in the pool. We have some bad swims, so how can you come back to the next session and be as energetic and as positive as the previous session? It is sometimes hard. It is draining. I acknowledge it. We kind of had to force ourselves to do other things in between sessions. Personally, I go on angry runs, so I don't become angry. But we also we couple staff between sessions just started walking, going to talk to other coaches from other sports, from other provinces and territories. The pin trading game at Canada Games is actually something very, very intense that I maybe brought to the next level a little bit too much, but ended up with a pretty neat collection. But just to kind of look, right now we're not focusing on the meet. An hour 30, just not thinking about it is enough to just be, okay, I want to go back and I want to do a good job. So I think just having that time off and accepting that you're going on your side, I'm going to go do this, let's meet at that time, and we'll be back and ready to go. That's probably the best thing to do, yeah.
Okay, cool. Karen. Karen's been waiting for this all morning. Karen, you had to deal with a lot of the downside, right, in terms of logistics and managing, like pivoting when things came up during the games or even prior to. And I wondered if you just talk a little bit about some of the bigger challenges that you didn't necessarily anticipate or sort of were bigger in the multi-games platform.
Well, I think, like, in terms of challenges and everything, I think every trip, every tour trip, every camp, regardless of how many times I've done it, doesn't matter if it's the same or the training camp or there's always different challenges that come up that you think you have, like, everything mapped out. Okay, I've done this, like, this kind of thing, like 5 years in a row now, I got it, like nothing's gonna go wrong, something always goes wrong. You just have to be able to roll with the punches and just adapt and just go with it and stay positive. A couple of challenges at the games, big challenges. One, there was one team manager for the team.
Of 32, yeah. 37, sorry.
Yeah. So that was a lot. So some people know this about me. I don't always like to ask for help, but I had to rely on the coaching staff a lot. We really believed as a team, and that was huge and different for me. So there was that. There was always so much going on, from media interviews and drug testing, and sometimes the need for me to be in like 6 different places at group on stage here, we clicked right from day one, and we really relied on each other, and really that was everything. That was everything for me. That I can't even tell you how much that helped and just meant to me. The other thing, there was a lot of big challenges around transportation, especially with our athletes. That wasn't all planned out at the games. We had a lot of challenges with that. But I think the biggest thing, like, regardless of what the challenge is, you know, I always say this to Dean, Dean, don't worry, it all comes together in the end. Somehow it all works itself out. And I truly live by that. And the biggest thing for the athletes is just always keeping that positive attitude, because as soon as you start feeling stressed or showing that stress or getting angry or whatever, you know, internal emotion you might be feeling in that moment, if they start to see that, they start to feel that. And that just has a ripple effect. So the biggest thing for me is just always staying happy, positive, laughing.
Laughing.
With it.
Yeah. Laughing.
So,
Yeah, because I think in those for those of you who may not know, is that other than the team itself has very little control of anything at the games. Really the only thing they can control is the performances of the swimmers, right? And even that's tenuous, right? But there's a lot of it is taken out of your hands in terms of, you have to be here for this, you have to go there for that. So I think they say it's to help you focus on the performances, but it actually, I think, in some ways does the opposite, right?
yeah, that was also a big learning curve for me, because, if I take a tour team somewhere, I'm in charge. I've made all the arrangements. I get to make the decisions. I get to decide what we're going to change, when we're going to change it, how we're going to change it. And in this case, none of those decisions were mine to make. So that was really different for me, letting go of that control. But we had 2 mission staff assigned to us, Cathy Games mission staff, our team was very mission staff, Kirsten and Kirsten, and they were awesome, and they were really day with us, and I could, I had them on speed dial, like anything I needed, because I didn't have a car, I couldn't get anywhere, and so they were a bit of my external lifeline as well to anything I may have needed in the moment. They really helped at the games.
Sarah, I have one question more around the team culture, and then I'm going to go to each of you and get a bit of a high and a low from the experience, but because we're getting close to lunch here. Sarah, can you talk a bit about, because the Special Olympics is not necessarily part of the Swim Ontario world, and we have this thing where we bring Special Olympics in every 4 years. And it's almost like we start that process again every 4 years, right, of integrating it into the team. And I wanted you to just talk a bit about sort of that experience of trying to get your swimmers to feel a part of the whole team, and the importance of that for those athletes and that experience.
Yeah, so for the athletes and for me, the inclusion in the event, I mentioned this before, like I thought that was, so important. The opportunity to be here, that was valued by myself and the athletes, for sure. I do think the involvement every 4 years in an event such as this it was hard to come from just our regular Special Olympics swim season, where we maybe have a couple of meets per, we have a few meets per year, maybe like one day. You don't do heats in the morning, one in the afternoon. It's not necessarily structured like that. That was challenging, I think, for some of the athletes, and One of the things that I thought was amazing about the lead up to the games was during the staging camp, like we got a taste for how other teams train and prepare for these high-level competitions. We did everything as a group. That was a big thing. Like we all did the same dry land. We were in the same pool. Yes, like we had our own lanes for Special Olympics, but everything was together. They were part of the team. When we were sitting in the lunchroom or having dinner, it was all together. A lot of the other, I have to also commend the coaches for, maybe had not had experience with Special Olympics athletes before, just engaging with the athletes. They're, really friendly. Most of them, will talk to you incessantly if you let that happen. But, all of the coaches engaged all of the athletes. Coaching-wise as well, it wasn't segregated as in I was only working with Special Olympics athletes. No, like there was a collaboration there. We shared workouts, like I know Olivier and Cathy often prepared the workouts, and like if I didn't think that it was 100% suitable for SOO, I adjusted a little bit, but generally I tried to have them doing the same thing as everybody else, which again was challenging, just given the some of the differences in I think how we prepare for competitions. But I thought that was really important. Like, let's do what everybody else is doing. Let's wear the same outfit that everyone else is wearing. There's going to be everything's together. So that was the biggest thing. Just we are a team. It's not para SOO able-bodied athletes. It's everybody doing things together. And Cathy stressed that a lot during the some of our pep talks and before our competitions. Like this is a team event. Everyone's performance counts to the points total in the end. Everyone has to do well. Able-bodied, para, and Special Olympics, and it doesn't matter where those points come from. It's a team.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask you to hand down to Karen. So just as we wrap this section up, just if I can ask for one highlight from you, if you can pick one. Let's avoid the lowlights. Let's go with yeah, we've forgotten about those already. So if each of it, just provide one highlight from the experience.
I think the biggest highlight for me, when it really became like, wow, we're really doing this, was actually when we walked into the opening ceremonies. That was like nothing I had ever experienced before in my life. As not an athlete, as my coach, I was to say I'm just me. But walking into an arena that is full, and we were the last team to walk in, and we were seated on the floor, and the whole place was full and cheering, and that was kind of that like, oh my God, moment of like, this is for real, like we're really doing this. But that's, there was so many great memories, like so many, but that was really just a moment that will stick with me forever. Just the excitement in the athletes and the coaches and just everybody, every province was there, and just the parents, and we could pick our Team Ontario that Olivier designed, our parent t-shirts out of the audience, and that was just a really, I would say that's my biggest highlight.
Cool. Olivier?
Okay, sorry, Cathy, I might tickle yours.
You are.
Oh, darn. We can share it if you want. Okay. So mine is not even in the pool or swimming related. Cathy and I were in a hunt for the Nunavut tent. And we ended up one day going and chatting with the wrestling coach from Nunavut, Coach Chris, who's actually from Ontario but lives in Nunavut now and coaches wrestling over there. And we started talking about how sports work over there, funding and all that, and he was very humble and saying that he had a good wrestler and he had a shot at a medal, but that was pretty much it. And we did our research and ended up finding that he was fighting, I believe, 2 days later, and we decided to go because he was going for the gold medal. And we went there and just, he actually won the gold medal. And it was the first gold medal for Nunavut ever at Canada Games. Big celebration from the whole country. Everybody in the bleachers, standing ovation for him, achieving something that was actually not expected from a kid from Nunavut. And mostly the interview after, where this kid said that his brother committed suicide a couple of years before, and how sport changed his life, and just this meant so much to him. So just how those moments of inspiration, it can become a big inspiration for all kids and the youth population in Canada. So yeah.
I've mentioned this before already, but just the inclusion factor, that was a highlight for me. Seeing everybody in one place, never seen it before. So that's definitely the highlight. Another highlight was just seeing the performance of the team. I was so impressed with everyone on the team, all the kids and their performances. They're young, and I was just so impressed about how everyone did for Special Olympics. Especially, I was worried about being at this level of competition and like how my athletes would perform. And we did the first event, and everybody did well. No one got disqualified, and everyone made the finals, or made a final in every event. And I felt like I could breathe after that. The first time we made that final, so that was really the highlight. Is just seeing that level of performance come up.
So I will expand on Olivier's experience, because it all started with trading pins. And we became addicted to trading pins. And everybody wanted the Ontario Spinny, and we learned how quickly that was very valuable to trade. But at the very start, I saw a picture of the Nunavut pin, because they had a 4-piece puzzle pin. And I'm getting that. I didn't care what I was going to do, but I was getting that pin, that 4 pieces. So Olivier and I said, we have time right between heats and finals to make it over to wrestling, because they have beach volleyball. They had 6 athletes at the games, and the coaches weren't trading the pins. They left it up to the athletes. So you had to scour the whole venue to find 6 Nunavut athletes amongst 2,500 other athletes, plus coaches wanting their pins. We went to the mission office. They said, no, we're not trading pins, but if you have difficulty, come back and see us. Okay. And we heard that they were getting more pins to trade because they knew they were in high demand. That's why we went to watch wrestling, because we knew the Nunavut athletes. And then we went, ooh, let's go see the shop, because we don't want to interfere in their performance. We came back. We said, do we talk to the athletes? Let's talk to the coach. That's when we got into the serious conversation of funding, how they get their teams together, how they get to compete, where they get to go, how difficult it was for them to do that. We left that meeting, and on the way back, we had no idea Chris followed us and was doing the same thing. So he got the same story. So on our way back, Olivier and I said, what can we do to get Nunavut swimmers to Canada Games? They were the only team missing from the whole games. We're like, this is not inclusive. They're not there. What are we going to do to make this happen? I said, okay, well, we're going to figure this out. Then in talking to Chris, he's like, I want in. So the three of us are brainstorming constantly what we're going to do to make this happen. We went back, I had a great idea, went back to the mission staff. My contract agreement with the mission staff from Nunavut, you give me a set of your pins, and I will work tirelessly to make it happen. And Olivia came with me, and I was like, 2 sets. They did look at us going, sure. And you could feel them kind of going, But I said, but aside from that, when I came back after that first meeting with the wrestling coach, I removed every pin that I traded from my lanyard. Because to me, it was no longer about trading pins. It was about creating something bigger than trading pins. It was about having full representation across the whole entire country at Canada Summer Games. So, yes, we did get the full-on pins, which is this. If you want to look at it closer, you'll see why I wanted it so bad. But they did hand us our pins. We have been working on it. We've called it the Nunavut 2029 project, because we felt that 2025 was too short of a deadline to make it happen. So then we started recruiting. I recruited Daryl, our big official at Canada Games. I'm in, she said. And John Lawrence from BC said, Cathy, I'm in. And Olivier's been working with his club and Chris with his. And we're now creating a network of people who want in to make this happen. So as much as I've retired from Club On coaching, I've taken on a much bigger task to make this work. So that is my biggest takeaway of creating all inclusivity.
But I feel like Chris didn't get the pins.
He got the first pin before we got ours.
I had watched wrestling a couple of days before that and received one from speaking to the coaches there. That's hard to follow, but I'm gonna
You're part of the team.
circle back here
Part of the team.
with Ontario and just probably the highlight. I spoke a little bit about any of these experiences where you get to work with other staff, coaches from other teams, and everybody comes together and has the same goals. It's bigger than yourself or just your club. From day one, let's say the first staging camp to the second staging camp, through the first day when we arrived to the last day. And I'll mention this when we got off the bus, but just the progression of the relationship with the athletes, but also the coaches, and how that grew. And it was really a special time. That was probably my favorite part of the experience, was just watching how that evolved over those instances. When you have athletes who don't work with you every day, nobody was ghosting each other. No one was walking by. Everybody says hello and goodbye, good night to everyone there, whether you were the para, or you're working with Special O, or you're working with Olympic Stream, doesn't matter. And then it got to a point where, even when I got off the bus, different buses take people home to different areas in the province. Got off in Port Hope. I think there were maybe 4 other athletes I got off, swimmers I got off the same en route station that I did. I walked inside, and they're just standing with me. You guys can go now. The games is over. They were waiting for instruction or something. They didn't want to leave. And I was like, guys, it's done. But it was, that just kind of summed up that relationship that you build with them, and from not knowing somebody, but then they're hanging off every word, is pretty cool. And again, everybody on the team. So that was really special. And I would just mention with Para, this opportunity, diversify. Go and find other clubs that are close to you. Speak with Ontario, reach out to Lindsay, and see if how you can better set your club up to welcome Paraswimmers into your program. It's definitely a rewarding experience, and again, something that I'll cherish, and something that now I'm better equipped, like I said, to handle with my club. So.
And I'll add to that by saying, find your local Special Olympics team and connect with those coaches and that organization, because I think there are swimmers there who may be looking for more, and a lot of us are in a position to offer more right now, and that's an avenue that we haven't necessarily done a good job in connecting with. And Sarah has been, along with Helena Rothenberg, the coordinator at Special Olympics, has been a great sort of resource for us to better understand that. So, Endi, final words?
Highlights. Obviously, there was the pool highlights, but I'll echo what everybody said. Right? Everything in the pool was great. It was exciting racing. Great swimmers. Day one of racing at the meet was crazy. With the women's 1500, watching an Ontario swimmer go eyeball to eyeball with a Quebec swimmer for 17 minutes and then take it on the last 5. And there was the men's 4x2 relay where we got a touch, and then Quebec decided to disqualify themselves, so then we got to go. And I remember saying, if there's this much excitement every day, I don't think I can make it with me. But just being able to do the whole thing was a highlight. But when I look back on it now, some of the most memorable things were like sitting down, guys, high fives. Like one of my favorite things, when Chris asked me to help him out, get some of the wheelchairs from one side of the pool to the other, and said, you want to play go-karts with me? And it's funny how the crowd on deck, just the seats part when you're zooming down with a wheelchair. So that was just a blast. It was little moments like that. We've all been at swim meets and with a lot of excitement, and the racing is what the racing is. But just the little moments in between the racing that really enhanced, I think, the whole experience for all of us.
And I'll give you one little highlight of my own. It was working with these people. These people were dedicated from the moment that they committed to it. There was never a moment where I questioned their willingness to do whatever needed to be done in order to make the best experience possible for the athletes. So thank you for that. I'm going to leave you with some thank yous. And for those of you who are interested in performance stats, please feel free to reach out to me. I can fill your inbox with how we performed. I will highlight that we had the highest, the best 3 performing females were Team Ontario. The best single performing female was a para swimmer, Katie Cosgrave. Dean referenced in his opening remarks that the women were first and the men were fourth. But I would underline that by saying without para and Special O, none of that would have been possible. This was a team endeavor. Everyone contributed. So with thanks to the swimmers, to the staff and the managers, to families, to the parents who brought their kids to the camps, who went to the barbecue, who tolerated the ticketing ridiculousness, the home coaches who prepared their athletes. Endi referenced that line of going from nationals into the meet. That all had to be managed, right? And those home coaches did a great job. Our mission staff, Kirsten and Kirsten, or they had names for themselves, but that's their names. Kirsten Maggi and Kirsten Babi. Our organizers, Trevor Cowan, who did most of it from a wheelchair or on crutches, and Daryl Martin, who did a great job. Our officials, too many to mention, but the meet could not run without them, and sometimes we forget that. Our friends and our partners, so Team Aquatic Supplies, Arena, and TPASC. Service providers, and forgive me for this not being on the slide, but we had great service providers throughout. Cheryl Ross is here in the room, Judy Goss, Kylie Moss, who came on a couple of our calls, Gamal Assad, who did a virtual call and then spoke to the team before they left for Niagara. Those people contributed to this piece, this win. And we couldn't have done it without you. And to the Swim Ontario staff. Specifically, Lindsay over there, who was checking my selections on a daily basis, and Darda, who was keeping me honest on the para front. This has been a rewarding experience, and I hope that this panel has shown that, because I think these people deserve the recognition, but most importantly, the swimmers deserve the recognition for the work they did. So I apologize for running late. If there are questions, throw your hand up. If not, lunch, I believe, is ready for that. I thank you all for your time today. Thank you guys for being a part of this. And if you can take a moment with a little bit of an applause and just keep the swimmers in mind when you do that.